AM 1280, Newstalk, KIT. How are you doing, Yakima Valley? Hope you're having a good morning. You would be if you're spending it with us. You'll be in the know as you head out on the go.
That's right, Dave. That's right. We start our candidate interviews today. Thank you very much for tuning in. We appreciate it. We are starting off. And by the way, we're going to be doing this for the next couple of weeks and trying to get everyone in here. Busy ballot. You can find the ballot at Yakima County Elections on the Yakima County Elections page. You can see what it's going to look like. And in the House this morning, Yakima City Council District 1 candidate Matt Sagen. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning, guys.
Thanks for coming in, Matt. Appreciate it. I know that ballots go out, the end of this week? Is that the deal, the 19th?
Yeah.
Like that?
Yeah.
Somewhere around there.
100,000 plus. Start sending military ballots already out.
Well, but as the focus is on districts in Yakima, I don't know, maybe you know, Matt, how many people get ballots in your district, you know? The top of your head?
I think it's somewhere around 900 households.
Okay.
Somewhere around there. District 1 does not have a whole lot of registered voters in comparison to other districts in the city.
Yeah.
And the return on that is also pretty low. So.
Sure. Well, and does that concern you as a candidate? I mean, obviously, when a person goes into office, he'd like to think that the community is significantly behind you, so that the decisions and stuff that you make carry some weight, knowledge that the community is there. Is that worrisome at all, or is that the kind of thing that if you get elected that you'll try to work to boost, or how do you feel about the turnout?
Well, when I started this campaign, I said that this is a campaign about community. This is a campaign to start conversations. And if at the very least that all we do is we start talking to people and get conversations going about representation and what they need in their community, then we've succeeded. If I do get elected, I hope to continue to work within the community and go out there and speak to people and drive up that civic engagement as much as I can. It's something I've been working on for the past 2 years here locally as well, before I even started running.
Well, that's where we want to start. Is who's Matt and what's he been up to?
Yeah,
what does he do in the real world when he's not
really.
Throwing darts?
when I'm not throwing darts. You've had too many nights throwing darts with me, Dave.
Yeah,
I was wondering if there was some kind of connection here when you guys walked in here.
We met a couple, a month ago or so, and he's a dart thrower and a good one. And some friends and I were out. And it's been years since I've thrown darts.
I was going to say, you're a dart thrower too, aren't you?
Used to be.
Yeah.
And so it just was kind of fun to reconnect with the sport that way, and then meet a nice young guy like Matt and have some laughs and competition in the process. So full disclosure, we have darted, I think, with and against each other over the last couple of months. So that being the case, when you're not doing that, Mr. Matt, tell us about yourself.
Well, I was born and raised here in the Yakima Valley. Have a lot of family in the Lower Valley and Sunnyside and here in Yakima. Graduated from West Valley High School in 2010. Went to college at YVC. I have a little bit of background in marketing and advertising. I currently work for Cameo Flower Shop doing floral design and also working with them on their advertising. That's basically me. I mean, I really haven't left here. I've been involved volunteering with various different organizations within the Yakima Valley over the past 5-6 years. So it's something that I'm really proud in, is giving back to my community. I really care for Yakima, and that's why I do what I do.
You've worked behind the scenes with a lot of other campaigns, though, haven't you?
Yeah, last election cycle at one point in time, I was a campaign manager for 5 campaigns at one point in time. We knocked on thousands of doors. I myself knocked on 4,000 doors between Grandview and Yakima by myself, with not even counting my volunteers or anything, between the general and primary election last election cycle.
The Yakima Herald Republic, where they
always tell your story.
Thank you. Says that you're active with the county Democrats, Yakima County Democrats, and Eastern Vice Chair for the Washington Democratic Latino Caucus. Is that correct?
This is true.
All right. What's the message that I suppose you've been knocking on a lot of doors? Mm-hmm. What's the message that you've been telling folks after Dulce represented that district? What is your message to your constituents?
Well, I think Dulce's done some really good work. We don't agree on everything, but I think that she's really done a fine job in showing what a true leader for District 1 should look like. I've talked to many people in that community, and I've said that, look, we need to continue to invest in our community. We need to look at more after-school programs for our kids, safer streets for our kids. We need to, plan for smarter infrastructure in District 1. And this is something that everyone seems to be right on page with. There's some streets in District 1 that don't have adequate lighting. There's some streets in District 1 that have a lot of potholes on the road. We have tracks that pop tires, and there's a lot of low-income families in District 1, and when you have a pop tire that costs you $200-300, it can be pretty expensive.
Yeah.
And it can really change whether or not you have food on the table or the light bill. It makes a big difference.
In case you don't know where District 1 is, it's what? It kind of, I guess, northeast Yakima, northeast Yakima. So that's what we're talking about, District 1 here.
Matt, the idea of district representation versus city representation. How have you wrestled with that in your mind? Coming from Yakima's historical past, I know that there's been a second incarnation of a council. The ACLU came and went. We had an election. There's been an election since. But we're still new to this whole idea of district-only general election vote, and that's a change, and that's, I think, engendered some concern about are you just there for District 1? How do you blend the needs of District 1 with the overall city picture? Have you spent much time wrestling with how that's going to work?
Well, yeah, I've been asked several times, about the position of a strong mayor. I've been several times of whether or not I think a district election is the right way to go. I personally believe that we have one of the most common forms of government throughout the United States here in Yakima. This is not something that's new or innovative. This is something that we see all across the United States. When you are elected to city council, you're one of 7 body that makes decisions for all of Yakima. And as much as you are there to represent your district, you are there to represent the interests of the whole city. I firmly believe that. I think that districted elections are a good thing. I think that they keep people that are within the neighborhood to see the issues in the neighborhood and address those at city council. I personally don't want somebody representing me in West Valley, because they may not necessarily see everything that's the ins and outs of the community. They may not necessarily be there in the neighborhoods, constantly. I talk to my neighbors constantly. I see my neighbors constantly. We do barbecues. We do things together. Knocking on doors here multiple times. I see the issues that are facing these neighborhoods. But I can't necessarily say that of somebody that lives on the other side of town. And I'm not saying to disparage that, but what I'm saying is that they may not necessarily be there to do that. So I'm all for districted elections. I think that they keep the people who live in the area as representatives of the area.
Your district will be one of the ones that will be served by an east side pool. And that's, I think the idea of the pool, that's got some baggage going way back to the very first, even before the first districted council was seated. Folks that were supporters of those folks, it was after the election in November, and there was a presentation made trying to basically head off the YMCA project to get money to redirect to a pool. I mean, it's been on the agenda that long. So here you are, you're an East Side representative. You're looking at the want for a pool and the need for a pool, and you're also looking at the citywide budget. Those are the kinds of questions and decisions that I think people want to know. Are you able to say, when we can afford it and when it's our turn? One of the things that I've discovered is that districted places cost more and taxes are higher simply because everybody wants theirs, right? And how are you going to combat that?
Well, I think, one of my opponents actually said that, there's a pool in each district, and that's not the case. There's not a pool in each district. There is a fact here that there is 3 pools west of First Street. We don't have a pool east of First Street at all whatsoever. And if you go back to the voting rights lawsuit that you've mentioned with the ACLU, they mention in that lawsuit that there was a lack of green and community spaces on the east side of Yakima. This is something that I think needs to be addressed, and I'm going to answer your question in two parts here. Yes, the pool is going to cost some money, but what are the benefits of that in the long run? We have a lack of organic community, I think, in certain parts of the city. If we have organic community, something that's generated from safe spaces, community spaces, crime goes down. Property crime goes down. People feel part of a larger picture than just themselves or their everyday lives. And are we going to invest some money into a pool? Yes, of course we are. But what are going to be the effects of that? Hopefully we'll be seeing a larger generation of community, of organic community, something that I've been talking about when I go to the doors. I want people to feel proud that they're here in Yakima. I want people to feel proud that they're a part of something larger than themselves. And the only way that we're going to generate something like that is if we invest in those green community spaces like a public pool. Now, do some districts, are some people on the council, like my district, I can't speak to that at the moment. I have my opinions, but I can't sit there and I won't speculate. But what I will say is that, when we do elect city councilors, we need to elect somebody who is pragmatic and understanding that you're a part of a team. Not every district needs to have every one thing. And it kind of concerns me when one of my opponents goes out there and says, well, every district has this, I need this too. That's not the right mindset. We need to understand that certain parts of the city of Yakima are going to be more respective in needs of something than other parts are. And if we are sitting there saying, you have one, so I need one, that's going to cause exactly what you're talking about, Dave, is that whole butting of the heads, my district versus your district, and we don't need that.
Certainly we don't. As you assess the city council, most people think about it. They'll have one or two things that trigger them, and then they'll start to follow the issues, and then they'll announce that they're going to run. You have had your toes in the political waters for some time. What was it that made you decide, okay, now's my time?
Well, like I said, I have a little bit of a background working in the political area here in Yakima, and also, with the state party as well. I wasn't asked to run. I really considered it for a moment, whether I was prepared to do this, and what would be my real initiative to do so.
Right.
Like, why do people do this? In some people's minds, this is a thankless job. Doesn't pay enough it's not considered a full-time job. You very well know this.
Yeah, it's true.
But I'm here to serve my community. I've been raised to give back to my community, in whatever capacity that I can. And I believe that I have the ability to work on a team and bring a team atmosphere and hopefully foster some more cohesive working together on the city council. Some people may agree with that, some people may not. But I believe that that's my skill set, and I believe that I can really help be a benefit to that table.
Let's end this segment. We're going to keep you on after the bottom of the hour, talk a little bit more. On an up note, what do you like most about the council and their accomplishments, the people that you're coming in to replace and the atmosphere and all that? Is there one highlight that you think, hey, if I'm on council, I'm not messing with that, or I want to do more of that sort of thing?
I think there's plenty of things that, I'm happy with, some things that I'm not. Just a couple highlights. The fact that we are getting an East Side pool is huge. The fact that we've started to build up our reserves and started to bring smart practices when it comes to our financial part of the city council, I think is huge. And going into looking at a replacement for Mr. Moore and the city manager, we're going to have to find somebody who's also going to be focused on those things. So those are a couple things that I'm very proud of, that I would hope to continue to work on.
Excellent. Matt Sagen is our guest. He is running for District 1, Yakima City Council. He's going to stick around for a few more minutes after the bottom of the hour, and so we hope you'll stay with us as well. You're tuned to The Source, 1280 KIT. AM 1280 Newstalk KIT. Alice Cooper wants to get elected. So does our next guest. You want your mic on?
That'd be hell, but aren't we glad that he didn't get elected?
Pretty much, yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it'd been a good.
Creepy. Creepy Joe, Creepy Alice.
That's right.
Who knows?
8:41 as we continue our candidate interviews, and these will continue for the next couple of weeks as we try to get a lot of folks in here that are running for Yakima City Council as we continue our conversation this morning with Yakima City Council District 1 candidate Matt Sagen. Thanks for coming in, Matt.
Matt, through the magic of radio, we're taking you to a city council meeting, let's say tonight. And you're on the council, and the conversation about ICE flights comes up. Where do you stand on Yakima Airport and ICE flights?
Well, I think this is a difficult decision no matter what happens tonight for our city councilors.
How so?
Well, I mean, Lance was mentioning it earlier when he was reading in the news that there is a possibility of losing federal funding if we say no, if we say stop coming. However, I look at what has happened here recently with King County, and they have yet to receive any disciplinary action from the administration. I think that we need to take a stand and say no. We have plenty in the community that are fearful, people who are seeking citizenship legally who are fearful. I had a woman renting a room from my home whose mom is seeking citizenship legally right now through a process with a lawyer and everything else. And she won't come back to Yakima since she has heard that these flights are landing. People are scared, and we don't have enough information. I mean, I was just reading in the Yakima Herald that we don't know exactly who's being processed here. Yakima County Jail is in 3 different lawsuits right now for having a contract of holding deportees in process. There's a lot that's going on here. If I was on the city council, I would be voting no to stop these flights. I just stop them now. Let's stop these flights. Let's get rid of them. We don't need them. This is not a Yakima issue. We're not an extension of immigration law. We're not trying to impede the law as it is, but we are not also trying to be an accessory to it. We're not enforcers. That's not who we are. We're Yakima City. That's not who we are.
Yeah, but it's a pass-through. It's not Yakima hands-on. It's people at the airport. It just happens to be the physical location of what's going on. It isn't as though, our people are down there carrying luggage and that sort of stuff.
Well, of course not. But, I mean, you could say the same thing about the Yakima County Jail. We're just facilitating a housing for a brief time. But, again, we're still being an accessory as an extension. Okay. I don't agree with that.
Okay. That is going to be maybe not in your district, and I guess ultimately that's where your vote, that's where it resides. But that's an issue that I think does. I don't think that's a minority. I don't think that's a majority position in Yakima. But again, you're elected in your district, and so we'll leave it at that. Another thing that comes up is the
elected mayor.
Yeah, but there was what's the other one they're talking about? They're talking about ICE. They're talking about cruise nights. Let's do that first, and then we'll wrap it up on elected mayor. Cruise nights, kind of a bit of a controversy over they were on, they were off, they were on, they were off. They had insurance, they didn't. How do you feel about cruise nights in Yakima as a viable activity, and does the city have a role to play in that?
The city has a role to play in, I think, all the events that happen here as a community. The story that I read is that Mr. Davis, the guy who was behind all of this currently, was saying that there was an issue with getting the insurance that is needed by the city. I would have to look more into that. Yeah. I'm more for community events and bringing people together. Like I said, this campaign is all about community. So if this is a viable option, I don't see why it couldn't continue. But I don't know enough to really comment on that at the moment.
Fair enough. All right, now to Lance's point and to the greater point, council tonight, which you are now mythically on, congratulations, is going to talk about what happens next in terms of a city manager. Let me start you off this philosophical conversation. Since there will be, and one of them could be you, 3 new members to the Yakima City Council, possibly 4 if Holly Cousins doesn't win, so minimum of 3. And possibly a majority would be replaced. Should any decision regarding city manager wait until after the election?
That's a hard question to answer. City councilors, you're elected to do a job. You're elected to be stewards of the city, and that sometimes means finding a city manager. this is an issue that is hard to answer because I believe that they need to do their due diligence as city councilors. They're still there till the end of the year.
Yeah.
Who knows how long that process is going to take to find the right city manager.
Mm-hmm.
Would I prefer to have a voice in that if I was to be the next city councilor
Well,
for
three
District
of
1?
them get to walk away if they make a choice. They don't have to live with that choice.
Well, I mean, they still live within the city, so a way they do have to live with that choice. However, I would prefer to have a voice in the selection of the new city manager as a city councilor if I were to be elected, but I still need to be elected first.
Yeah.
These people still have a job to do, and if they find a city manager that is suitable, so be it. I think this is a question that is very difficult to answer because for me, there's a lot of variables as to which way I should go on this.
What, anybody telling you anything in the constituents? Is that a topic that comes up at all?
No. What comes up is what they see in their neighborhood. They don't
Yeah.
see this inner working of City Hall in their neighborhood. They see what's right in front of them.
True, but it speaks to an ethical question about how, not necessarily ethical, philosophical question in terms of what kind of a counselor will you be. We have had blow-ups with this council because council took action when members were missing, and those people who were missing had significant input on the issue. Consideration was not given, and action was taken. That caused blow-ups, and then they kind of just changed their mind and said, okay, we will hold off on actions on certain things when not everybody's there. I mean, that is a professional, ideological, operational type of decision. That's kind of what I'm getting at with you, is how will Matt Sagen operate when he's in the seat? Will he extend those kinds of courtesies to his fellow council members, given that they do more live with it than someone who just is in the city, that sort of thing? So you don't have to answer. I get your point about wanting more information, but that's kind of what I'm looking for.
Well, if I can answer to that point, then of course. I mean, being a team of 7, you have to be able to work together. You cannot be causing animosity between each other. I don't want to speculate what has happened here. I don't know all the ins and outs, but when you work as a team of 7 or any professional setting, you need to have those kinds of courtesies in order to continue to work together in a very amicable way to get things done. And that's why you're elected, right? Is to get things done for the city.
Sure.
So yeah, of course I would extend those courtesies.
All right. The last question for me, and maybe Lance has more, but and that is the idea of the fact that because of our earlier part of the conversation talking about districts, and you seem to have that 30,000-foot capability. I mean, you'd serve your district, but you also know that you're there to serve the city. You feel that multi-level responsibility, and I think you expressed that well. There is talk, though, that because the system allows for people who maybe aren't as broad-minded as you, and you talked about one of your opponents' position of my district, my stuff, my whatever, that because the system would allow for that without an elected mayor, people are talking about the prospect of, with Cliff Moore leaving, now's an opportunity to change the form of government to an elected mayor. Not that you still don't have policy making and still district contact, but there is an elected mayor by the whole city whose some responsibility is the 30,000-foot view, who could help negotiate without it's my district versus yours that we would have now with the council, and that there would be value in that. Some prominent people pushed that before when Dick Zase left. It's coming back around again. I'm pretty much sure of that. So your thoughts on the potentiality of a change of government, again, to a strong or elected mayor with the council?
Well, again, this is kind of a multifaceted answer, but starting with it, this is the most common form of government in the United States, is the one that we have currently. I don't think that we're reinventing the wheel here. I think we are able to address problems easily. When it comes to an elected mayor, I have some concerns. I don't think that they would necessarily suit the city best. I know you and I have had conversations about this, Dave, where I don't necessarily agree with that mindset. I would question whether there would be equitable representation. I would question what kind of powers that mayor would have. What would be the real purpose of having that when you are supposed to be a representative for your district and also the city? That is part of your job description when you're elected city councilor. As a city councilor, you're supposed to keep each other accountable, as we've seen with certain decisions recently, but you're also supposed to keep the city manager accountable. You look at Wapato recently with a strong mayor form of government and all the mess that is going on there. I have my reservations strongly. This was put to a vote previously and lost.
Under a different scenario of council members after the primary elected at large through the city. So there was an opportunity for leverage or to influence by the city at large under that scenario. That's not the case now. So it wouldn't be a quid pro quo kind of an election. But I get your point. The city had a chance to consider it at a time when a 30-year manager left. So truly there was a big opportunity there to reconsider.
Well, and this isn't the only issue that I think will come back around in front of a new council. I think the idea of a plaza, maybe not in the same incarnation that we recently saw, but I think the idea of a plaza will probably come back around. I mean, these are things that will always come back around. These talks will always happen. People are frustrated in their city council. They don't feel that they're necessarily being represented by everyone. And I think that is something that needs to be addressed and heard, whether it's coming from, a city union department or, just citizens every day. People need to have their concerns heard. And I think that's where a lot of this is coming from. Does that mean that we should change our form of government, our charter, to include a strong mayor? I don't necessarily think so.
Okay. That's anything else?
Yeah, I was just going to say, we've kind of been talking to Yakima in general, but if you were going to talk to the folks in District 1, what would you have to say to those folks? Why should they put you in office today?
They should put me in office today because I'm about their community. I'm about our community. I'm about investing in making us a stronger community, giving us more opportunities, giving us more safe spaces, more community spaces to really make Yakima something in the next 10 years. That's something that I want to focus on. Decisions that are made right now with this city council and the next one will affect the next 10 years of our future. And so that's what I want to see. I want to see safe spaces for kids to walk to school and come home. I want to see more after-school programs to break down the whole crime problem that we have. I want to create more investment in our infrastructure where we have better roads, better sidewalks, more street lighting. These are things that people are constantly talking about in my district. We're having a great event this Saturday at Miller Park starting at 3 o'clock. It's going to go from 3 to 5. We have a local rap artist that's going to be there, Mitch Weary, M Status. We have bouncy houses, free food. We're doing this because we want the community to come out and talk about these issues and also to just generate some ideas and have some fun. Lots of free food, and I don't want to take any home, so you guys should come too.
Right on.
Yeah, if there's a lot of food, maybe I'll swing by. Matt Sagen, appreciate your time this morning, sharing your ideas with us. Obviously, winner of the primaries gets another round with us down the road, so we may see your smiling face again. We wish you best of good luck, and thank you for your time and your concern and dedication to your community. We appreciate that.
Well, thank you guys for having me this morning. I really appreciate it.
You got it. Yakima City Council District 1 candidate Matt Sagen. Thanks for coming in this morning as we continue the morning news on Newstalk KIT.